Well, it's 37 minutes past 9 a.m. and of course you're still watching Smart Men's Business Daily Kickstarter. Here, Masika Tsime and Godwin Batumer taking you all the way to 9:55 a.m. And don't forget the markets. We are powered by Zabu. And of course, if you want to invest in government bond securities, Zabu says there's no need for hustle. What you need is your phone, mobile phone. Just dial *292#. That is the USSD code. Learn about the product, or if you know what you want, you can go straight to the bond. So, investment with Zabu is as low as 15,000 Ugandan shillings. That is the lowest you can go for. But working days are Monday to Friday from 8:15 a.m. to 3:15 p.m. Of course, it's already open, so except for public holidays and weekends, which I don't think we're going to have. We're not having any public holiday till next month on Independence. It's going to be a national public holiday. And of course, Zabu says, your money, your future, and they're powered by Autoc East Africa, telling you to do something new. Well, still about investments. And of course, the previous conversation we've been having, the different challenges that have come with people that have led to the closure of different enterprises in Uganda. You had the different members of parliament, and the last one gave his very heartfelt views. Maybe he could have been a business person or economics teacher. I have a feeling one of the two, because he understands the language of investment. But anyway, right about now, I want to see how much has Uganda lost to this. We've seen billions of money, not even millions, billions of money lost to tax.
By the government. I mean, just Uchumi itself, in its closure in 2019, the government lost over 10 billion in taxes, in tax revenue. So that's huge. And a lot of studies have shown there's been a lot of loss of business generally in Uganda, right? And how does that affect the economy? We're seeing here that, of course, you can see that Uchumi had amassed an outstanding 200 billion Uganda shillings in debt. And that is huge. But also here, one of the factors I can see here, one factor is the number of businesses that have closed down according to the World Bank. The number of registered businesses in Uganda decreased from 1.3 million in 2019 to 1.2 million in 2022. Can you imagine this? This represents a loss of over 100,000 businesses in just 3 years. 100,000 businesses lost in just 3 years for different factors, like extreme debt, competition from COVID, and COVID we lost a lot of business, and that affects the general government tax revenue, obviously. Another factor is the amount of investment that has left Uganda. According to the Bank of Uganda, net foreign direct investment inflows into Uganda decreased from 1.2 billion in 2019 to $800 million in 2022, a huge loss of over 300 million. Yeah, this represents a loss of over 400 million in foreign investment each year. So you're looking at foreign investment coming into Uganda, also pulling back because of the different factors. Just like the man talked about the mafiaism that's here, the competition, the lack of accountability, the misappropriation of funds, the incredible competition, the high cost of investment in Uganda as well. These are some of the huge factors that are completely leading to a huge detriment in the investment capital in Uganda, which eventually affects the economy and the government. Now, with
the closure of actually these some of the different enterprises, Uganda loses up to $20 million US.
Imagine that.
Per year.
Per year. So it's huge. I wonder what some of the incentives that Uganda could have for.
Just because maybe for the $20 million, when you convert them to shillings, that's a lot of money. That's extremely, that's in trillions.
Shillings.
That's a
crazy amount of money. And we're seeing the impact of COVID-19 as well, right?
Yeah.
The impact of COVID-19 pandemic on businesses and investments must also be considered, right? Since COVID came around, businesses were not prepared, let's be fair. We had never anticipated COVID come around. We never thought that the world will shut down for 1 second.
No. You see, the problem wasn't we weren't prepared. We were prepared, but for a short time. We thought this would actually be like the usual pandemics, like 3 months or 2 months.
Exactly.
But it took us 2 years
to recover, and when pandemic...
We're actually recovering in this year.
Right, and remember, with Uganda, what we talked about, what the Honorable was talking about before is that risk assessment. We're not accountable for the future.
Nobody actually,
we're only accountable for this year and the profit we're going to make this
I've
year.
been saying this over and over again. There has to be a crisis management team. Prepare for a crisis.
And insurance teams as well. A lot of these businesses were not insured. And we're seeing here that the pandemic caused a sharp decline in economic activity in Uganda. So there was no economic activity, barely any, right? And many businesses were forced to close down. According to the World Bank, Uganda's GDP growth rate fell from 7.5% in 2019 to 3.3% in 2020, which was the height of the pandemic. So there was a complete shutdown. There was a complete lack of futurism. There was no idea of how we're going to look, how we're going to fix this in the future, right? So taking all these factors into account, the estimated Uganda lost billions of dollars in the breakdown of businesses and investments. As we talked about in the last few years, this is a significant loss for the Ugandan economy as a whole, and it has had a negative impact on the lives of many Ugandans. So we're also seeing here, Mercy, the Ugandan government is taking steps to address the challenges facing businesses and investors. However, it is not clear. It is clear that more needs to be done to create more conducive environment for investors, especially with a loss of foreign investment up to $400 million. That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot. And of course, maybe we could look at what some of the different enterprises that have actually affected with their closure, having affected the tax revenue in Uganda. And of course, Uchumi had amassed an astonishing 200 billion Ugandan shillings in debt. And of course, that could be some of the factors of the closure. But then here, an example was the closure of the British American tobacco cigarette factory in 2020. You know that tobacco where people used to smoke cigarette. And of course, employment, people lost over 500 employees. And of course, the tax revenue for that British American tobacco was estimated at $10 million per year.
It's
so if you see one enterprise, you're losing 10 million in a year. What about another examples? We have.
We also have here, we're looking at the closure of Hima Cement plant in 2019. This is Hima Cement. It was prolific. We all knew Hima Cement growing up, which was one of the largest employers. It was one of the largest employers in Uganda, shut down due to a combination of factors, including high costs of production and competition from imported steel. The closure led to the loss of over 1,000 jobs and an estimated $20 million in tax revenue per year.
So now we're counting 10 million for tobacco, then we're counting 20, that is $30 million lost tax revenue. And of course, we have most of them now looking at Nakumat also, looking at Uchumi, calculating all that. That is a lot of millions lost, maybe like over 100 million lost every year due to those enterprises shutting down. Of course, those are not the only ones. We have even those small, medium enterprises that are also shutting down that we do not know about, and they've been collecting taxes from them. Okay.
Exactly, which is huge, a huge
actually,
loss.
we've not even talked about hotels, we've not talked about tourism operators. It's a lot really that we lose every year. And we have to make sure that we actually curb this, because we need revenue, we need tax revenue in our country.
Exactly.
So if the moment this start happening, they're going to also affect us as people. They're going to also increase taxes. That one was like a small business, now going to increase from 10% to 15%.
Exactly. And we're seeing here, according to the 2019 report by the World Bank, Uganda lost an estimated $500 million in foreign investment due to investor shutdowns.
Yeah.
The report also found that the shutdowns led to the loss of over 10,000 jobs. Can you imagine that? Over 10,000 jobs. And another study conducted by the Uganda Chamber of Commerce Industry in 2020 found that the country had lost an estimated $1 billion in foreign investment and over 20,000 jobs due to investor shutdowns. That's $1 billion in foreign investment that we've lost. That is crazy. So the economic impact of investor shutdowns is particularly severe in Uganda, given the country's high levels of poverty and unemployment. The shutdowns have led to decline in incomes and a rise in poverty levels. they have also made it more difficult for Ugandans to find jobs. Yeah.
So you see, the moment some enterprise closes down, thousands of people, hundreds of people are left unemployed.
Yes.
So that we're trying to eradicate poverty, people are going back to begging. So how about we find means of how we can actually curb what is happening in our country, Uganda? But anyway, away from that, we have, of course, you know, with every sector there are different policies that govern. And of course, even as that, investment also has the different policies. And these different policies have actually affected investment in Uganda for those that are into investment. Now here, the Public and Procurement and Disposal Public Assets Act of 2003 has made it difficult for foreign businesses to compete in the Ugandan market. So that is one of the acts that has led to, you know, some of the challenges. And of course, with a different, remember they had started this issue of minimum wage. And you know, people were like, you know what, this is going to really affect the people that actually invest in our country, Uganda, because you're not going to tell me the minimum wage is 600,000. What? Me as an investor, where am I going to benefit? If each employee is going to get, the lowest is 600,000, how much? And of course, because I'm an investor, I'm going to be like, you know what, each of them is going to take 200K every month.
Incredible, right? And we're seeing that the high cost of doing business in Uganda has led to an increase. That's crazy. It's what the Honorable was talking about earlier, is that high cost of doing business is making it impossible for foreign investors, because they're coming in and thinking, you guys, doing business here is hard. Even domestic investors themselves are thinking, it's very hard to do business here. I'll have to take out incredibly high loans. You're taking out loans from here, taking out loans from here. So by the time you start business, you're in incredible debt. That's why what he advised before about cumulative investment is better. You get money from where you're getting money from and slowly start to invest, put some money aside towards your investment as opposed to taking out huge loans, because that in turn affects you in the long run.
Well, of course, the government's emphasis on large-scale investment, neglecting SMEs, which are the backbone of Ugandan economy. Interesting. I must agree with that. SMEs are actually the backbone of economies. If you're the economy, if you to see everywhere you go, those small, medium enterprises that are around, those that sell street food, those that have different hotels people go to have affordable food. Those are the ones that get us money. And of course, they're neglecting them. They're not seeing the value of them. So, and they're focusing on the bigger companies, are focusing on the bigger enterprises. Yet these ones also kind of generate revenue for Ugandans as well. And of course, SMEs are the backbone of the Ugandan economy, accounting for over 90% of all businesses and employing over 80% of the workforce. I say, build Uganda, buy Uganda. You cannot have a small hotel and you're actually employing a Kenyan. Or maybe, you know, depending on how much you negotiate, but you know, that is what we are calling for. Let's support our small people who do small businesses, those that sell street food, those that have small boutiques in downtown. You know, those are the small things are the ones that actually earn us, because people actually support those more than they do to the bigger. Someone will be like, you know what, I'm not going to spend 50,000 on lunch. How about I go to Mama Nachi and she gives me lunch for 5K? Yeah. So you see, much as it is little, they also contribute a certain percentage of the country's GDP. And of course, those are the different issues with the different policies that are affecting investment in our country, Uganda, and foreigners are like, oh, this is too much for us. We are maybe shifting to other countries which have better policies. And of course, you have to realize this is only government policies. Yes? And of course, the private people also have their different policies. Someone is going to come with their regulations, their rules. You're not going to report them anywhere. They can decide to pay you 50K a month.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's your right to say no or yes if you want the money. But anyway, it's just 52 minutes past 9 and of course 10 minutes, just 8 minutes to 10 a.m. And of course it's been lovely having to discuss this investment topic with you, investment sustainability. What are you doing as a business person, as an enterprise, to make sure that in case people are attributing this COVID-19, but I don't think it could be. Okay, maybe in case we have a pandemic or anything that comes up that may shake you, is there something that you have yourself secured with? Do you have insurance actually for that, that can actually compensate for the losses that you could have made?
Exactly, and obviously I would love for the government to be able to help us in terms of reducing the cost of doing business in Uganda, reducing taxes, because it becomes incredibly hard for foreign investors when they have to pay a lot of tax. For domestic investors, when you're doing a lot of tax, you're barely breaking even. In your first year, you're barely making money and you're paying incredibly high taxes. So if there's something that can be subsidization or tax relief or tax holidays for businesses that expect to bring in a lot of
for government. If you're not in the private sector, geez.
Exactly. If there's there's relief, because there's some sort of relief that was given a few years back for some private businesses. If there's some more relief that could be given for some of these businesses, we could encourage more investors within the country, especially since we expect a lot of tax revenue from them.
Well, that brings us to the end of Smart Business today. And of course, don't forget to catch us on Twitter, mkaslin, Kacielyn. That is my ex handle. Okay, Twitter has been running in my mind, but that is my ex handle. So you can reach out to us and Smart 24 TV now. That is our X handle. And of course, on different platforms, we also have an online platform, so you can reach out to us and follow what we have for you. And of course, be productive, you know, do something nice for yourself. You know, don't get a burnout. When you feel a little bit stressed out, go walk, take a walk, you know, take some sip of water, but remind you, please take breakfast. Breakfast is the important meal of the day. They say eat breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and and supper like a beggar. So please treat yourself nice over the day. And of course, it's been me, Mercy Katsime, and Godwin Batumer. And of course, coming up is Financial Market. We love you. Have a very good morning.